This is a supporting video for using the template for completion of the bachelor's project in 2023. I'm going to show you some features of the template to make sure that everyone is fully aware how to use them accurately. And I'm also going to talk through some of the various chapters and some different items that may crop up during the last week of finalizing and editing your document. So on the screen in front of you, you can see the template guidance document that has been given to you. First thing to note is that there are differences in the page numbers that are on display. So the first thing is that behind the scenes, the document is cut into a number of different sections. That gives us a page 0 without a number. And then from the internal title page, it gives us the preface pages, which are in Roman numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. They go up until the end of the content page, and then chapter 1 starts page 1. The pagination, the page numbers also go on odd numbers, go on the front-facing page, and then even numbers start from the reverse of the front-facing page. So that means that this page is on the right-hand side of the book always, and then this page will be on the left-hand side. And it's important to note this because you'll notice that if you go through the template, it will appear that some pages are missing. So it will say introduction, page 1, page 2, page 3, and then it looks like there's no page 4. This is for the Word version that you're working on. And that is because if we go to the paragraph marks, there is a section break and a section break that jumps to an odd page. Because this is already an odd page, it needs to jump to the next odd page. What is the reason for this? It means that every new chapter will always start on the right-hand front-facing page of your book. So it'll always have an odd number. There is a page 4. So if you print this document or you create a PDF, and a PDF is the print version, then there will be a blank page inserted on the back of this page to make this page go in the right position. But it does not have a number. It doesn't print anything on the page. Okay, and so you do not need to insert any pages. So be careful not to break the template, as we call it, by changing any of these section breaks. If you have done so, you can either teach yourself by opening up what we call the paragraph marks, finding it, and then inserting. You've got various types of breaks that you can insert. In the layout, you can go to breaks, and then this one is called a section break, and it's a section break that jumps to an odd page. You can learn how to do that, or you can re-download another version of 1.7, and then you begin to paste your materials in, this time more carefully. So that shows us the layout of the document, left and right. Okay. And at the end, there will be many times an extra page because perhaps the conclusion is only one page and it jumps to the next page, etc., etc. Then from the beginning of the document, please do not touch the year. Please input your document title. Please keep the same format, so use a capital letter on each major word. If you have a subtitle, input the subtitle. If you do not have a subtitle, please delete this. In terms of your student names, please usually input it in alphabetical order according to the surname. It's also good practice if you input students' full names here, so it will go on to a second line. So first name, second name, comma, first name, second name, and final student. In the internal title page, please do not keep the word title. If you go to the LLC lab and you read theses from previous years, you always find that mistake. Please do not suffer that mistake. So please take the title that's on the front and repeat it here. Please keep the same formatting, that's all caps. If you have a word in your title which is italicized because perhaps it is a species name, something like this, then you'll have to manually make that happen because using this feature called all caps will overwrite the italics. Again, please delete this. If you have a subtitle, then a subtitle is used. If not, then delete. Again, reminder, do not keep the word title in subtitle. That is just a placeholder. First name, surname, student numbers for all students, as many as you need, delete the others. Do not touch anything else on the page, just delete what you don't need. And then input your supervisors' names. Please also input their titles. Later this week, it will be shared with you who is your evaluation committee. And in that document, you can also find the exact title of your professor. So input supervisors. I think for this year, everybody has just one single supervisor, but sometimes we have multiple supervisors. Again, please delete. For the counselors, those are the postdocs or PhD research fellows, or sometimes even research assistants who helped. It will be your professor who guides you which names to include there. This is a sample for a thesis, which is going to be submitted both for students in MBT who are at GUGC and students who are from Ghent in the program of BC/BT, Biochemistry and Biotechnology. This is an example. So you will need to type in your degree program. The reason we put it in a list is to show you. So if you have a mix of students in your group, again, I think for this year, if you are an FT or an ET student, then all the students in your group are FT or ET, then please delete this line and include accurately the title of your degree, Bachelor of Science in Food Technology, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Technology. If you're in a mixed group, you need both lines. Next line, don't touch. And then what we do here is we include the center for and then the name of your center, RC1, 2, etc. Oh, I've just noticed this, for some reason, was not updated. Please update this academic year. So your thesis, the whole year, theoretically starts from 2022, and this year is 2023. This is a holding position. So if you have a logo from your center, so most centers will have a logo. If there is no logo, then you can delete the box. If there's no logo, if you wish, you could use the GUGC logo as a holder, but RC1, RC3, RC4, C5, we all have logos. The best way to input the logo is to leave this box and then go to the feature called Change Picture. And then that will insert a picture in that shape without moving it around. Okay. The other place, of course, to do that is use the Insert tab and then use Insert Picture. But if you do it from here, Change Picture will produce a picture in exactly the same position, which will be very neat. What I'm going to talk through today are some of the smaller features, layout and reference inserting, so that it creates a little bit of consistency and accuracy. And that is one thing that you're trying to produce at the end of your thesis. You've done all the writing, you've done all the work, and we want this document to be presented very consistently with the same techniques used throughout the document. One of the ways to do that is to more effectively use the simple features that are included in Microsoft Word. So this is then the first page. The evaluation committee, I will show a sample of this later. In the evaluation committee, you will input the names according to the list that is given to you. The first one will be your supervisor. On the page of acknowledgement, you and your group, you may write whatever you wish as a thank you notice, as a culmination of your work and experience, something that you're proud of, somebody you want to say thank you to. It can be half a page, it can be 2 sentences. Please write all your names and then give it the correct date and month. Permission for usage does not change, so all students must then type their name and then insert a signature. The way that this is done is this is a hidden box. So if I show you, that means that you can just put a cursor on the outside of it. You can hit enter. It will create another space. And at the end, you highlight it again, and then you remove those borders. They are unseen. Again, put the date in. So insert the signatures of all the students in a list. Next then comes the summary. So a summary is something a little bit broader and less strict than an abstract. An abstract was only one paragraph, and it has a very strict style in terms of moving from the clarification of what the experiment is all the way through to the results. And you'll see that in many of the journal papers you've been studying. A summary is a little bit broader. It can have multiple paragraphs, and you can see samples of that again in the theses of the previous years, but it should cover everything that this thesis is about. You must write a summary in English, and you must include keywords, as you see in many journals, so 3 to 5 capitalized keywords in alphabetical order. Capitalized meaning the head letter is capitalized. Next, if you are in a group with the students from BCBT, by the regulations of their faculty, you must then include the same summary, but in Dutch. And so it must be the same, it must be a translation, don't write something different, and that must be included in Dutch. If students wish to include a summary in Korean, it is by your choice, but we started to include that from last year, and that is a nice feature because perhaps you think about going to a graduate school in Korea, and it is common practice in Korea, if a student writes a thesis in Korean, they must have an English summary page. And so we have written a thesis in English, and so I invite you, if you wish, you can include a Korean summary page. I've included just the titles, so we have consistency, but of course what you will do is insert page break and bring this text to the next page. So you could in fact end up with 3 summary pages, and we have some of those samples from last year. Again, it should be a translation of what is written in the English summary page. Abbreviations, this is a hidden table, so create your abbreviation list as you wish. Most of them are standard. Occasionally, you may use your own abbreviation if it is a consistent reduction of a phrase that is being used again and again and again. But please try not to invent your own abbreviations unless it has been verified through your status meetings with your supervisor, etc. Last one we come to in the preface section is the contents page. The contents page we don't need to deal with now. If you are using the template properly, that means that you are inputting headings. So we never use the font or the style changes here. We only use the style features to input headings. So we tell the document that this is heading 1, and then here you will find all the different various levels of headings, 1, 2, 3, 4, going down through the levels. There is also included here a header 5 if someone wishes to have another list for some reason. And after including this, you will come back. You can right-click here, you update field, and you update the entire table. And that will change the titles. And oops, I've lost my page break. That will include, that will update all of the titles and the page numbers. But please note that we only go down to the 3rd level in the contents page. So you can see here, here's some samples of headings at the 4th level. They have 4 numbers, but in the contents page, we only go to the 3rd level. So do not change that. And that is because you would anyway end up with a lot of subtitles unnecessarily, which are all on the same page anyway. It is possible, if you wish, and I will just show you, we use the references tab here in the table of contents. It is possible to customize the table, and one of the customizations is to show levels. So at the minute we are only showing 3, and that is normal, but it would be possible to show 4, and then we could update our table. Okay, so at the end, you will come back and you will update this whole table, page numbers and titles, and you will make sure, as I showed before, that any of the page numbers, any of the sections do not move. Okay, you can see sometimes here a page break, and you can see sometimes here a section break. Okay, introduction, you know how to do that, your context, your literature review, and your goal. I recommend that these sections are continuous. That means they go one after the other all the way to the goal. And then I recommend after the goal, you insert a page break and then you paste in your visual abstract. So the visual abstract will be diagrammatic or a flowchart type image that will take up all of one page. It doesn't need to be labeled with a figure. You can, you don't have to, and that is because it is special as a visual abstract, and it bridges the gap very nicely. You have given the background global issue, you've led us through what is the target that you're working on, the tools and techniques you work, you've examined literature in comparison to that, you've defined your problem, you've shown your goal, and then the visual abstract is a stepping stone between that goal and then your methodology, what you're actually going to do. So please make sure that you include that, and please fill the page with it. And I will show again some samples of that. One last thing to note is with regard to line breaks. So you can see that after a heading, there is no line break. And that is because if you highlight the text, you can see a big piece of space underneath. That is the feature called paragraphing, and that the spacing after this heading, this is a type of heading, this is a heading number 2, level 2, it has already the spacing included. But after the normal text, there is no excessive heading. This is already spaced, so we can see it's 1.5 spacing. It's also justified, but if we want to make a new paragraph, you must make a full line break. So please do this consistently. So these are called line breaks, and I will show you the line breaks. There's a line break between one paragraph of text and another paragraph of text. There should be a full line. This means you hit enter. Also, there should be a line break after the last section of text before you input the next heading. There is another line break. And this line break is also the normal text. It is not 2 times of the heading text. Otherwise, it would be longer. And this creates visual consistency in the document. In the case of having headings, you don't need them. After the heading, you just hit enter. It automatically switches to normal, and then you start typing in that space. One more thing to note, it is possible if I remove this text and the line break, and then I remove this text and the line break, and then I leave this text, you can see now that perhaps we wanted to go straight from a heading number 2, and we wanted to introduce a heading number 3, and we wanted directly to introduce a heading number 4. That's no problem. You can do that. Again, there are no line breaks in any of this. It naturally has the spacing included, and then your text may start here. So as an example, it is up to you. If you want to type normal body text under the top level heading, you can do that. If you want to do it under heading level number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you can do that. Or you can have them continuously touching one another, and you don't need line breaks. Please make sure that if multiple students are working on the document, that you have a way of checking this towards the end. So learn to use the paragraph marks to find consistency in your document. Your professors will be able to recognize differences in the spacing because their eyes are very attuned to checking and proofing editing documents at the end. In this next chapter, this is not how you include your methods, obviously. The chapter 2 is methods, but what we have done is include a number of examples. These samples must be deleted after you have studied them. They give an example of 2 features. One is including figures and one is including tables. So for a figure, you should use an the Insert tab to insert picture and then choose from your device. Secondly, after you have inserted the picture, you need to input a caption. So you can right-click and you can directly insert caption. This already has a caption, and I just want to show how this has been organized. So we can right-click on the image, we can click Insert Caption, and then we need to select the type of label. So this is a figure, and then figures have labels that are below the item. And then the numbering technique for our thesis is a hyphen, a dash. And so why does it say 1.1? It means chapter 1 and the first figure in that chapter. So in this sample, you can see in the page, this is second chapter, and it is the first figure. It's not related to the 2.1, it's just related to the chapter. That makes it easier to log and find and make these changes. If you use the auto captioning in this technique, the numbers will be updated. If you move the figure around, the caption will go with the figure, and then you will not have any problems with editing. Otherwise, what we find is sometimes a student has added a figure, deleted a figure, compiled multiple figures together by the end of the thesis, and then the numbering is quote unquote messed up, and you have to search through the document and find them. So if you use captioning, then it will keep track of it for you. Okay, and that is what we want you to do for figures and for tables. So this text is also given its own style. So it is here, it is blue italicized. We want you to have capital letters on the major words, unless it is a very long sentence caption, and I will show a sample of that later. So input image the way we showed, so insert image, select the image, you can right click, you can find insert caption, and the other place to find it is by using this referencing tab, and then this is the section for caption, so insert caption, and it brings it up again. This one is not an equation, it is a figure. Figure presents like this. You type in what should go in alongside it, so we're going to use a colon, and we're going to type in the text, and then it will automatically input below. I just show a sample of that and just leave figure 1.1 new. It doesn't put in 1.1 because it automatically knows that it's 2.1. Because a new 2.1 caption has been inputted, this one has automatically changed to 2.2. So it tracks everything. So let's just remove the incorrect. And then we need to update this. I'll come back to this later. Okay. The next thing that can be done, after inputting captions, sorry, I'll just show quickly the example for the table. Here, when you right-click on the table, it doesn't always show up. Caption, you have to highlight the whole table, and right-click again, you can insert caption, or you can use the insert, the references tab and then insert caption. And this time you're inserting a table, and it knows it's a table. And then for a table, the caption is always above. So figures and diagrams, images, captions are below. For tables, it is above. The next thing that we will do is that if we want to refer to this, we will use this technique. This is an integral citation in a way, because it's in the grammar of the sentence. You also could include it in parentheses at the end if you wanted as a reference. But instead of typing, what we now do is that we go back to the references tab, we find the caption section, and we select cross-reference. In the cross-reference, we select the cross-reference type that we're looking for. So the one that we're studying is figures and tables. I want to select figure. I do not want to insert the entire caption because that's the full title. I only want the label and the number, i.e. figure 2.1. When I have more figures, I will have a list here to select from. I only have one, so I'll select this one, and then insert, and it will insert this short piece of text, figure 2.1. I'm going to have that as a non-integral citation. I'm going to put it like that. If I hover in Word, you will see click, control, and link to follow. The benefit for this is that in a PDF version, it will create a jump to link. In fact, in a PDF version, for everything that we do, even for the contents, it will create links and cross-references. And then that guides the reader through your document in a nice professional way, because your reader is going to receive a PDF version of your document. This also allows you, because if this changes, then this is also linked. And so when you go back and find them, you will find that if you've had to move a figure, and if the figure numbering has changed, the citation will change also. So please use captions, and then please use what is called cross-references. In this tab also, you can find that you can insert your citations and bibliography according to APA or IEEE. You can learn how to manage your sources if you have been doing that. Some students have learned it, maybe some have not. And then it gives the same ability that you input the citation, and it will follow this same feature that will give a jump to link, and it will jump to the reference list at the end of your document. We don't specifically teach that. We ask you to learn how to do it if you wish, or you can learn to do it manually. But for the figures, let's use captioning in this way. There's a few other examples here. These are the examples of the bulleted lists. You can find the lists in the style. You can see them here, dashes, numbers, etc. Or they're the same ones if you want to input them from either of the numbered or bulleted lists here. The final one, source code, is just inputting an image in this way. It doesn't require a caption. You need to refer to it. Unless you have many repeating source code listings, then we need to find a way to refer to them plainly. You can find samples again in the lab from theses that are similar to yours. The last one is inputting formulas in the case of some students, and our preferred way of inputting formula, for the formula itself, and then for the referencing, we use a simple system where, again, you can recognize that there is a table. So we insert the table, and you can find that these are the same. Okay, consistently the same. We insert the same table again and again. Then inside the table, we click and we go to insert. Instead of inserting a picture, we insert now an equation. And then these are the ways in which we can type or insert the equation. It is possible in Microsoft to, again, use the same referencing technique. So we could click it. Sorry. We could click it, we could insert a caption, and we could say that we want to do an equation. The negative part about this is that it creates a blue title, and that is, in fact, not the normal way to present an equation. The better way to present a reference and equation is to use a simplistic numbering system, and we just do that manually. So there is no cross-reference link for this. So that means that when you refer to this, you can say in one above or in equation one above. And sometimes you can call it equation one. And sometimes you can use the name of the equation, such and such a theorem one, in the calculation above. And that allows the writer to have quite a bit more control over their referencing of this equation. So for equations, we want you to input a table. We want you to use the insert equation feature, never copy and paste from somewhere else. But in terms of captioning, we want you to do that manually, okay? So that there is no title. And then for those, we just remove the features. After you have studied these samples and you know how they work, please, of course, remove this. This is not part of your methods chapter. Okay, so we've covered chapter 1, we've covered chapter 2 and some of the samples. Chapter 3 will be your results. A key thing to show is that you should start each section with text. This is very important. Sometimes there is a temptation to lead your chapter with a piece of data, perhaps a graph or a result. You should never do that. You should start each chapter with text, even if it is a short amount of text, before referring to the table. We talked about that, and that is in our PPT notes about how to write the different chapters, and we prefer that there is a minimum a sentence or two, but usually a small paragraph, so that your narrative, your text, is leading the chapter instead of the data. The text leads first and then the data comes second. The same for the discussion. Conclusion. Conclusion will probably honestly not need a subsection. Conclusion, please follow the guidance given in the PPT notes. And the final section will be the individual critical reflections. In fact, there would be no text here, but I have seen some groups write a group comment before they got to the first student. Please put the students' names at the top of each page. So one thing that is strange, which we just need to cover for everybody, perhaps I have finished student 1 and I want to input the text for student 2. I'm going to input the next heading. It automatically includes the number in the heading, and I'm going to put the student's name in. If I then want to move this to the next page because you told us we need a page break, the place to insert the page break is just in front of the text. So we would go here and we would insert page break. So strangely, the number goes with it. And then if we go and check our paragraph marks, we can see that it is correctly inserted. Sometimes students feel that they try to click in front of the number, and because they can't, then they will create an extra line and insert a page break here. And what that does is actually bring the whole line with it. So you can see that there's an extra line space. So the way to avoid that when you're working with these headings is that if you want to have a page break, you actually insert the page break in this location, just in front of the text, and the number, etc., will come with it. Okay, not sure what I've done. Oops. Let's put it back. Okay, so each critical reflection will be 1 page per student, separate page each. Finally, you have the appendices. If you have no appendices, please remove them. We put the appendices A, B, C because you may have different text, different examples, different code or script, different ranges of data. The key thing for the appendix is that it is excess data, excess information. So in your results or in your discussion, the results needs to present with a narrative flow the key information that you are making reference to. But there will be an increased amount of data in the background, but if it was inserted into the results, it would impede the reader to actually make all the connections. So it would, although you're trying to be more transparent by showing all of your data, you're actually making it less clear to read. And so the appendices is there so you can remove excess information and hold it in another place. That still makes it very transparent so that if the reader wants to investigate, they can. In the same way that you do citations, you can make a reference. So you could write Appendix A. You could also use a phrase, see Appendix A, as long as you're consistent throughout. But usually, just to say Appendix A, and that is enough. You can have as many appendices as you wish, but please remember, as much as you include, you need to pay for each page in your thesis, and so you need to have a little bit of sense about what is there. In the case of code, you will normally include all of it as much as possible, but it is also normal to include that code in a GitHub page, and then also you can make a link to that GitHub in your appendices or in the body of your text. Finally, at the end, here comes your references. For the references, I have not used the references technique. I've done it manually because we teach you to do this manually in our university. Very quickly, if I switch on the ruler for a second, all we've done is give you a very simple APA reference. And you can see here that I've used a hanging indent, and that is the same for all of this text. We also use only left aligned text because if we justify, we get very irregular, uneven spacing. So for the reference list, unlike the rest of the document, we use left aligned. The other technique is to use a numbering system. The numbering is according to the position that occurs in the text. So the first time you use a source, it becomes number 1. Even if you reuse it, it keeps the same number. And so this list is by alphabetical order. This list is by the order that it occurs in your writing. We want you to learn how to follow a style guide very explicitly. So this is the official reference guidelines from APA. This is the official reference guidelines from IEEE. And for all questions, we want you to use that style guide. Of course, there are other tools such as the Purdue OWL that we often refer you to, and we have also some sources on our own LLC website, which guide you for something that you're unsure about, but for accuracy and how to present it, this is the way we want you to present it. For DOI links, we want them to be hyperlinked in APA, and then for IEEE, it is not normal. Okay, and then that creates your thesis. I want to share just one final example, and that is an example of a thesis published last year so that we can see all of those points. On the screen is the PDF version, so we're going to see a couple of quick features. This is the nice title. There's no subtitle here, so the subtitle text has been removed, and these are the students' full names according to the spacing that they prefer in their names. On the second page, then, we have title, student numbers. This group had 2 supervisors and 1 counselor, and then they are a multiple group from different majors, so it's all named, and then their center has a badge, nicely, neatly included. For their evaluation committee, there are 5 because they have 2 supervisors, but normally there will be 4. You will all receive the same 4 type of supervisors. The first in your evaluation committee is your own supervisor. The second in your evaluation committee is another ZAP, or sometimes a postdoc who leads other research. They will be from another center, so they will be a non-specialist in the field. The third will be a specialist in the field. This person will be a PhD researcher, a postdoc, or another TA who has a PhD. The fourth will be either myself or Professor Oselton, as we are assigned to guide your theses, and then we will examine some of the issues of presentation and writing quality. All will be involved in different ways, in different elements in scoring your project, both the theses and the questions in the examination. Acknowledgement, you see, it is their choice what they want to write, and then all their names and dates, and here are their signatures inputted. This is a group that has a summary in English, a summary in Dutch, and a summary in Korean. And then we can see some of the elements that I pointed out earlier. So here, although it looks like a space, this is the programmed spacing, but this is a line break. This also is a line break, and then they have heading after heading coming down to the 4th level, and then a line break. And so you can see this nicely and neatly is the way that it wants to be presented. It should be presented here. They're using IEEE, and then in the beginning, it very clearly should go 1, 2, 3, because that's the first time that these sources have been cited and referenced. But of course, they can be cited again, and that means number 1 will occur somewhere else. So here we see number 2 being reused. Insertion of a figure, and we can see it says figure 1.1, and then that figure 1.1 must be referenced in the text. Here, there's a figure 1.2, a non-integral citation, and it comes on the next page. This citation itself, this caption, is also taken from a source, and so it must also have a reference. As we go through the text, you can see a good range of figures included. The end of their project section, their problem statement, their goal, they chose to have a page break. And so this is something to consider at the end. We consider including page breaks because perhaps the problem statement would have fitted here. Maybe goal would have stretched onto the other page, but would have presented itself very kind of ugly, kind of broken way. And then the visual abstract needs a whole separate page. This is the visual abstract for their research. So therefore, it's better to take the whole problem statement and goal and then shift them. And so these are the elements that you need to save time for at the end, perhaps next Monday, next Tuesday, that you go through the document and you're happy with the placement of every piece of text on the page. So for the continuous writing, do not use line breaks, but sometimes in order to create effective spacing, think about the way a textbook is presented. Instead of just moving the goal from one page to the next, you might want to move 2 elements so the page break is inserted. Here's a sample that we talked about earlier. It goes page 13, 14, page 15, but the front-facing page on the right-hand side of your booklet will need to be where the next chapter starts, and it does it automatically. This is page 16, but it doesn't have a number. This is the back of this page. Okay, here's a sample of a table that has the caption above, and again, the table is referenced in the text. Other things to note, this is going to be printed as a booklet, so do not change the margins. This is the margin of the text that I set for you, and you can also see very neatly that in this group, their tables and later on, their diagrams, many of them, do not go beyond the limit of the text. So do not make your images wider than the margin of the text. Again, think about a textbook, the way images and text are presented. The margin is always protected. Sometimes we could steal maybe a few millimeters either side for a very large image, but it is better to be consistent. And you can see that there's good consistency in the presentation of all their graphs because they all line up. And those small details matter at the end. Okay, other things that we have talked about, starting off with discussion, with text, then introducing the next heading. Here are good samples of composed images. So you add an image plus an image, a photograph plus a diagram, and all of that becomes the next figure. And in those cases, because we have the long sentence level caption, then we don't need to have capitalization throughout. We write them in sentence format. Again, we have combinations of images that make sense, and we also have a nice consistency in the size of the plate with the size of the graph, and we do the same one throughout. It means that visually it can be compared very easily. Now, in the case of presenting diagrams and photographs and results, and then you start to reference them and talk about them, be aware of how the pagination, how the page is going to work, because sometimes you will be referring your reader to something that is on the back of the page. So you can have a little bit of thought if the images and the diagrams could be presented on a kind of centerfold, that is the front 2 facing pages. Otherwise, you might end up a case where you've got a graph on one side and then turn the page and the other graph is on the other side, and you want the reader to compare. Have a thought about that. Visually in a PDF, it's not going to cause a problem because the reader will scroll like this, but when it's printed, these two graphs will be hard to compare with one another. So you can see for this group, they thought about how to input their page break to bring this text out of this page to have this text connected to this image. And then they thought about having the line break after this because maybe they wanted this graph and this graph to be visually apparent at the same time. So think carefully about some of these line break issues. Think about what's going to be visible to the reader. And those types of issues are very important in the last week of your thesis. Okay. Again, there are some guidance around inclusion of photographs and images in our PPTs. We've taught you, if you're a GEGC student in the third year in scientific research writing, if you are a BCBT student, we have included all the information in the content slides of the bachelor project for a page. And we want you to remember, please do not manipulate images. So please try to be as truthful as possible. Just finishing off this example, we have the discussion. Reasonable length, we have conclusion, reasonable length. There are blank pages because it jumps from one to the other. And then here we have how the students choose to include their critical reflections. They were thoughtful because they included the reflections in the same order that they ordered their names in the beginning. So little things like this, they were thoughtful about how to present everything. These are their appendices at the end. Again, they squeeze a little bit of space out of each side, and they included what they termed table A61 for this chapter and for this reference. That helped to guide and to refer to it. The main thing is to present this well. Okay. One sample that we did not see in this page or in this thesis, sometimes you might need to rotate an image to put it in a landscape format. In that case, you can study how to rotate one page, or you may just rotate the image. It's better and safer for you at the moment just to rotate the image to keep the page number in the right position. If you rotate the page number will climb to the top right-hand corner. It will be very ugly when we print the book, but sometimes you will see samples of that where to put a graph or a piece of imagery or text or data, to put it portrait on a page wasn't enough space, and so the image has been rotated. So you may think about that. These are the sample of the references. I think you should do very well coming to the end of your thesis. I'm excited to see the results. Please do not stress. If there are any questions that are bugging you, please reach out to your counselors and to your supervisor. Please also reach out to myself as the lecturer in charge, or to any one of my colleagues in the LLC, and we will go through any formatting issues or answer questions for you related to your document. Thank you.